Chapter 201 to 206. The doors open again, and a large figure lumbers through. This guy is over 2 meters in height and is full of muscle and pure mass. He's got dark blue hair and markings on his face. He wears rather loose clothing, and it isn't gaudy or flashy either. Just plain. Of course, the materials are rare and as a consequence they are strong. De Graal, aka the continent's wrath, admittedly sounds a bit cool. One of the giant race. He walks around the table and sits down at his specially made seat near Guy. There's a seat between them that's probably for Maline. He doesn't say anything and just leans back in his seat with closed eyes, likely waiting for the start of the Walpurgis. A few minutes later, another group of people walked in. The leader looks like your classic Dracula crossed with a middle-aged office worker. By that, I mean he looks like a middle-aged office worker that works out a lot since he's got some muscle. Not on the level of Daggerwell, but it's there. Plus with his all-black noble outfit with a high collar, black cape and 2 sharp pointy teeth, you can easily guess what he looks like. He also happens to be blonde, but it's like a dull blonde color. Even so, he's rather good-looking. I'm talking Hollywood level. Roy Valentine, aka the Bloody Lord, another Chiuni name. A vampire. Following behind him are his 2 attendants. One of them is an elderly servant type, nothing much to see. The other is a silver-haired maid with blue and red heterochromia eyes. Admittedly, she's totally my type. I have a thing for silver/white-haired girls. Spark. I had a thing for them. I look up at Makoto to find her squinting her eyes at the silver-haired girl. Despite how it looks, she's not looking at her with hostility, but rather curiosity. Makoto, hey, Rimuru. Makoto contacts me through telepathy. Makoto, she's weird. Rimuru, yeah. Believe it or not, she's actually the head honcho of their group, Luminous Valentine. Makoto, luminous? As in the luminous faith? As expected of Makoto, she's already got it figured out. Luminous Valentine, aka Queen of Nightmares, sounds both Chiuni and cool. A vampire, true ancestor, that is also the target of faith of the entire Western Holy Church, the Luminous Faith. Of course, the vast majority of those worshippers don't know that their god is a demon lord and that the pope of their entire religion is Louis Valentine, twin brother of Roy Valentine. Hinata is one of the only human working under her who knows this truth, that I am aware of. Well, from my memory, she isn't hostile to humans and instead seeks to protect them. Luminous also snuck a few peeks at us, mainly Makoto. I think she got the letter that said, "I'm stealing Hinata." Roy takes his seat with his attendant standing behind him, and a few minutes pass. The door once again slowly opens, revealing a rather exhausting-looking soul. I'm not joking, his presence is making me sleepy. And I can't even sleep. What's even scarier is that this is completely natural, no skill is in effect here. He's got light blue eyes and purple hair with white streaks running through it, A/N. Anime shows he's got gray hair with purple streaks, take your pick. He looks young, around high school age. He's also a Bishounen, a pretty boy. Tui. As he takes his seat, he looks at Ramiris. Yo, you're, like, still the size of a bug? He sounds like he hasn't slept in days. Ramiris, oh shut up. I can still trash you 7 ways to Sunday, Dino. Dino, A/N, or Dino, depending on the translation, aka the sleeping ruler, also sounds cool, which is a bit ironic, since he's the only one here with no territory to look after, so he doesn't rule anything. Hell, if I remember right, he's been freeloading off De Graal for centuries. Plus, I doubt Ramiris even knows what 7 ways to Sunday even means. I mean, I don't, but she probably thought it sounded cool. Dino and Ramiris continue to make small talk, mostly Ramiris bragging about her new attendants, letting Guy have his moment of peace, for a minute or so until Dino slams his face into the table in front of him and falls asleep, so Ramiris turns her attention back to the former. A few minutes later, the doors open, again. Walking inside is a trio of people, all of them having feathered wings. The foremost person is someone who I can immediately recognize, despite being the first time I saw her in person. And oh my god, she is sexy. With silver pink hair and feathers, sky blue eyes, wearing a red leotard that emphasizes her figure and black leggings that do the same for her legs, Fry, aka Sky Queen, not really Chiuni, enters the room. She's a harpy. She has bird feet though, but that sure as hell isn't off-putting me in any way. I want her to take me with her thighs and… Mikoto, I'm getting really angry for some reason. I really don't know why. Judging by the fact that she's slowly unconsciously squeezing my body in her anger, I realize I should probably stop my train of thought there. Besides, if I had to choose between the two, I would choose Mikoto. After her evolution, only Shizu can compete with her looks. And Ilya, but that's a matter of course. Ilya ihi. Behind Fry are her two attendants. One of them is a nameless harpy, the other is what seems to be a buff male harpy, but I know better. That is Carillion, and it's so fucking obvious, cause the dude only has a mask to hide his face. A lion mask. Dude. You're literally called the Lion King. How does no one know who you are? Is this the power of plot? While I was thinking such things, I catch Shizu flinching slightly from the corner of my vision. Her cat pupils shrink before expanding as her head snaps towards the door, her body tensed. Before I could wonder why she is acting like that, the door opens again and someone walks through. Blonde hair and blue eyes with a feminine face, if not for my foreknowledge and his body structure, you could mistake him for a female. He's also very beautiful too, you know, for a guy. I'm better looking though. I'm not salty. Leon Cromwell, aka the Platinum Devil, a little Chiyuni, but not by much. An ex-human that even used to be a hero before he turned into a demon lord. Crack. Said demon lord is now looking at Shizu, who ran up to him with such speeds that it looks like she teleported, and has her foot jammed right between his legs. Leon doesn't react and continues to stare at her with a cold face as if he didn't even feel it. I mean, he probably didn't, since he barely even reacted. His cold blue eyes continued to stare down at Shizu. Eventually, he moved. He leaned slightly forward and proceeded to fall onto his knees before falling flat onto his face. He was instantly knocked out. Bruh. Everyone in the room, except Dino, is staring at her with various emotions. Ramiris is laughing, Luminous is confused, Guy is looking at Shizu in a new light, so on, so forth. Shizu turns back and meets all of their eyes one by one, eventually landing on Mikoto, who is silently pursing her lips, not saying a word. Shizu, to all of their looks, simply shrugs. Shizu, I don't like him. She takes off her anti-magic mask hanging from the side of her head and imbues her magicules into it, having it grow in size. She then covers her face with the said mask and stands behind us like nothing is wrong. I wanted to kick him in the nuts though. Later, everyone is back in their seats doing whatever they normally do. Ramiris is bragging about her new subordinates, Guy is sitting there with his eyes closed thinking he's all badass, he's not, so on, so forth. Leon has been magically moved to his seat, even though he's still unconscious. And I don't mean someone moved him with magic, I mean no one touched him. He just suddenly appeared in his seat the moment I moved my attention away for a moment. Leon isn't even conscious yet, he's still knocked out cold. Mikoto is staring at Leon's body with an intense glare, probably wondering how in the high heavens did he get to his seat. It seems she has become slightly aware of how bullshit anime logic is sometimes. The doors open once again, and most likely for the last time. Only Clayman and Malim are left from those attending. Remember, Carrion is presumed dead even though in reality he's not even a dozen meters away from me right now. Seriously, how does no one realize this? Unless, they already know and are just apathetic to it? That's a more likely reason. Anyway, walking through the doors is a man I can only think is Clayman, aka the Marionette Master. He is surprisingly handsome, I guess. He's got short pointy ears, gray lavender hair and red eyes, with decently sharp facial features. Only average when compared to everyone else in this room, but still notable. But as soon as I saw him, I immediately grew annoyed at him. Specifically, it's his holier-than-thou attitude that is just oozing off him. His smug expression, that looks like it's his natural resting expression, is also ruining his face. Another thing to note about him is the little fox he is carrying in his arms. It's a small blonde fox with 3 fluffy tails. Ooh. I remember. Fox girl incoming. Shizu *kiss*. Holy shit, did Shizu just hiss? And not only that, but she hissed at the fox, not Clayman. Hell, she barely even registered Clayman's presence, keeping her eyes only on the fox. Both Mikoto and I are surprised. Mikoto, what's wrong? Shizu. I don't like that fox. I can't really explain it, but I just feel like that fox will be a threat to my position. Your position to what? The mascot of Avalon. Yeah, that's probably it. Rimuru, well, you're already sharing the position with Ilya, so it should be fine. Plus, you're only a mascot in your cat form. In your human form, you are more beautiful than you are cute, so that doesn't count. I tell her through telepathy. Seeing Shizu freeze up without replying, I knew she's taking my advice to heart. Mikoto, Rimuru. Stop talking. Eh? Why? Walking behind Clayman is a familiar figure that I haven't seen in what feels like a very long time. A short figure with platinum pink hair fashioned into twin tails and blue eyes wearing her signature Demon Lord outfit that wouldn't look out of place in hentai. Milim Nava, aka the Destroyer. But there's something very obviously wrong with her. She doesn't have her usual hyper, enthusiastic aura around her. In fact, she looks more like a doll than anything else with her expressionless face and dull eyes. Both of them walked through the door one after the other when suddenly, as I expected, Clayman randomly turns around with a smirk. And punches Milim. It was a full-on punch too, none of that weak sissy shit. He threw his whole body weight behind it. Clayman, move it, you dunce. Now, obviously, he's doing this for attention, to show that he can do this to Milim without expecting any form of retaliation. And it worked too, judging by the completely bewildered expression of nearly everyone in the room, excluding Guy. I've told Shizu and Mikoto about this before, to prepare them for this. But even with this knowledge, they still can't help but be shocked. I can even feel Ilya squinting her eyes at this scene. Meanwhile, Clayman looks around the room with his signature look of superiority. Mikoto stares at the unreacting Milim with an unreadable face. Mikoto, sigh as expected, I can't do this. With a sigh, she gets up from her seat and slowly walks over to Clayman and Milim. Now, if I know Mikoto well enough, she will probably make a fuss and throw the plan we had out the window. I could stop her, but... Meh, the plan was simply to follow canon anyway. Nothing important. And so, without anyone to stop her, she eventually ends up standing in front of Clayman. Her hands are on her hips, her stance is loose and unguarded. She isn't meeting Clayman's eyes and is instead looking towards the ground so her bangs are covering her eyes, preventing him from seeing her expression. It's also pretty amusing since Mikoto barely reaches his shoulders in height. Clayman, what? Do you have something to say, dash? Clayman didn't get to finish his words before Mikoto clenches her fist and sends it right into his chin. Crack. Fortunately for him, his tongue wasn't sticking out. Unfortunately for him, his mouth was open. So when Mikoto punched him with the fury of an athletic girl turned demon lord backed up by her, Saitama, ultimate skill that also boosted her physical strength. Well, let's just say that the sounds of Clayman's teeth nearly shattering as his jaw slammed shut wasn't pretty. Huh. Well, canon is fucked. Oh well. Clayman's body flies back a few meters before hitting the ground. After that, he continues to roll on the floor while making muffled screams as he covers his mouth with his hands. Mikoto, that's for punching my friend, fucker. Mikoto says with a low voice while flipping him off with her right hand. Yup, I really love her. Chapter What If? With a sigh, she gets up from her seat and slowly walks over to Clayman and Milim. Now, if I know Mikoto well enough, she will probably make a fuss and throw the plan we had out the window. I could stop her, but... Meh, the plan was simply to follow canon anyway. Nothing important. And so, without anyone to stop her, she eventually ends up standing in front of Clayman. Her hands are on her hips, her stance is loose and unguarded. She isn't meeting Clayman's eyes and is instead looking towards the ground so her bangs are covering her eyes, preventing him from seeing her expression. It's also pretty amusing since Mikoto barely reaches his shoulders. Clayman, what? Do you have something to say, dash? Clayman didn't get to finish his words before Mikoto clenches her fist and sends it right into his chin. What I wasn't expecting, however, was for Milim to kick the ground, appearing right in front of Mikoto and catch her fist with her palm. Bang! Mikoto what dash? Milim's other fist shoots forward towards Mikoto's stomach with no mercy. Milim's fist successfully hit their target and Mikoto was sent flying away. However, she just flips and hits the ground with all four of her limbs, sliding backwards from the force. Mikoto, close. Mikoto mutters to herself. Indeed, that was close. Had I not erected a spatial barrier around her the moment I noticed something was wrong, she would have taken massive damage just now. But, that's odd, why is Malim defending Clayman? Clayman, cuckoo. Ahahaha. Clayman throws his head back in a generic evil laugh. It's not even a 3-stage laugh, it's just a weak 2-stage evil laugh. Clayman, fool. You can't win against Malim. Mikoto just ignores Clayman and looks towards the expressionless pink-haired demon lord. Mikoto, hey, Malim. I know you're just pretending to be under his control, but it's okay. You can stop now. Clayman, humph. She is not pretending. She really is under my control. Ahahaha. Seeing Malim not reacting a bit, Mikoto tilts her head in confusion. Ramiris, hey, what do you mean? Ramiris shouts from her position. Clayman, well, there's no need to keep this a secret any longer. You see, I used a very special item to mind control Malim Nava. Now I have the power of the destroyer at my disposal. Muhahaha. God, he's really laughing a lot. Ilya, Oniai-chan. Rimuru, I respond mentally while trying to make sense of the slight bad feeling I have. Ilya. Malim, she really is controlled by Clayman. Rimuru, what? Impossible. Malim has an ultimate skill. Unless it's a mental type ultimate skill, it's impossible to mind control an ultimate skill wielder. Thankfully, Clayman, being the stereotypical villain that he's trying to become, goes ahead and explains his evil plan. And thankfully, since this is an anime world, everyone is bound by law to not attack and interrupt the villain while he is speaking. I mean, unless you're me. But I also want to hear what's going on. Clayman, you see, I had a guest. He explained to me the existence of ultimate skills and their mental resistances, so I found out that Malim was not under my control in the first place. But he was able to brainwash her. Not only that, he ordered her to obey my every command. Oh my god, please don't tell me it's another AU thing. Clayman, and now he is going to brainwash all of you. Wahahaha. Clayman screams while pointing to all of us. Clayman, Lelouch-sama. They are all here. You may reveal yourself and begin. Hold up. Lelouch? Appearing out from the corner of the room is a figure. He is wearing a dark purple suit with golden stripes which is covered by a black cloak with golden outlines. He is also wearing a mask that covered his entire face. Shizu, it's Zero from Code Geass. Shizu plainly states while pointing towards the figure. Her expression was still masked by her anti-magic mask. As an aside, she watched Code Geass among lots of other anime from my world because I showed it to her. I mean, why not? At Shizu's words, he stumbles but manages to catch himself before he falls. Lelouch, no. This is my original design. I made it myself. I totally didn't buy it from my system shop. Okay, that was some big information. First, no one in Tensura is supposed to have a system, so unless this is another AU thing, he probably met a ROB. Second, he's a system scrub. Disgusting. Third, he is most likely a Chinibu. Rimuru, wait, is your name actually Lelouch? Or did you steal that too? Lelouch, oh of course it's my name. I doubt that. I ignore the shocked faces everyone is sending me for being a talking slime. Lelouch, anyway. I'll brainwash you all, so you won't remember this anyway. A small portion of his mask opens up, revealing his left eye. The eye is red and has a unique symbol within it. Shizu, a Geass. Shizu mutters. Judging from his obsession with Lelouch, he probably also has his Geass too, the Geass of absolute obedience. Shizu. Did you buy that from your system shop too? Lelouch, shut up. I'll mind wiping you all. And then I'll use you to hunt down that rogue reincarnator in this world. Then I'll complete my quest and get the appearance change coupon. Rogue reincarnator? Is it Bryce? No, it's not Bryce. For one, I already killed him. And two, I'm more of a rogue than him. I mean, he seemed to be a genuine part of this AU world, while I came here because of ROB and a little accident with OG Satoru Mikami's soul knocking me off course from the original world. He's here to kill me? Ilya, maybe he's one of those MC hunters? You know, like those fanfics you used to read where a guy gets given a mission by a ROB and travels through the multiverse hunting down MCs of other fanfics? Rimuru, yeah I understand. So does that mean I'm the bad guy in this situation? Am I a parasite, sucking the energy of the world and sending it to a ROB who impersonated a meat bun who was using it for evil plans? Ilya, a little specific, but no. As far as the universe is concerned, you are a genuine part of this world. You're not a parasite or an unstable factor or anything. Maybe it's the influence of that meat bun ROB? I knew it, meat bun ROB is OP. Lelouch, I'll hunt down that rogue reincarnator in this world. Then I'll complete my quest, get the appearance change coupon, and then change my real appearance to Lelouch. Oops, I forgot he was still here. Mikoto, alright, you knock off Lelouch wannabe, I've had enough. Spark boom. A lightning strike hits his head on. He ends up on the floor, spasming intensely. Milim. Fue. Where am I, Ninota? The last thing I remembered is this creepy guy with a mask baiting me with a plate of cookies. Somehow, I'm not surprised. And what if? After a few minutes of Clayman rolling on the floor while screaming into his hands, his teeth finally stop hurting enough to prevent him from thinking straight. He slowly stands up onto his 2 feet, stumbling all the while and nearly falling over several times. Standing to the side, I can see Milim, just barely keeping a straight face, doing everything in her power to not laugh. When Clayman punched Milim to assert his dominance, should have T-posed instead, I highly doubt he actually hurt her. In fact, if Milim didn't do anything and just stood there without moving her head with his punch, I'm pretty sure Clayman would have gotten injured instead. But even so, being punched for no reason would still piss anyone off, so I understand why she's acting like this. In fact, if he acts like this often, it's a wonder how Milim didn't blow his whole estate up in anger. Anyway, Clayman slowly stands back on his feet and glares at Mikoto, who simply stood there with crossed arms, looking at him with unimpressed eyes. He points towards her with a shaky finger. Clayman Yu 2E. He starts to say something, but spits something out from his mouth midway. The object hits the carpeted floor and rolls a bit before coming to a halt. It's a tooth. His tooth. And it's got blood on it too. Clayman Yu 2E. Another tooth flies through the air. Milim. Milim slipped. Clayman snaps his head in her direction and Milim immediately returns to her usual listless state. Not thinking about it anymore, he turns back to Mikoto and points at her. Clayman, how dare you? Do you realize what you've done? Mikoto. I punched you? Mikoto says, while innocently tilting her head. Clayman glares at Ramiris, who is laughing to herself before looking back at Mikoto. Clayman, I am Clayman, the marionette master. A demon lord. I am Mikoto, yeah, I know who you are. Mikoto interrupts Clayman in the middle of his bragging. Clayman. Clayman froze mid-sentence. Ignoring him, Mikoto looks over to Milim. Mikoto, hey, Milim, you can stop pretending now. Clayman finally begins to react. Clayman, it's useless. She can't hear you. I have her under my absolute control. Crack. Clayman flies through the air and hits the ground while holding his mouth with his hands again. Mikoto slowly lowers her fist, not even sparing a single glance in the poor man's direction. Milim's body is practically vibrating as she struggles to hold back, her cheeks puffing up as she tries to prevent her laugh. Milim. PFF. And that's all that was needed. Milim fufu. Kukuku. Ahahahaha. Milim clutches her stomach and bends over as she laughs. Clayman stops rolling on the floor and instead looks over at Milim in absolute shock and even slight horror. Clayman H. How? 2E. Wanting to be included in this conversation, I start talking while ignoring the tooth. What? I was feeling left out from all of this. The plan is already thrown out the window, there's no need to hide anymore. And so, transforming myself back into my human form, I sit on the chair Mikoto was in previously with my arms behind my head. Rimuru, it's because she's not under your control. She never was. I say with a matter-of-fact tone. This causes everyone in the room except Mikoto, Shizu, and a still laughing Milim to look at me. Rimuru. What's up? Clayman, impossible. I used an orb of domination. It can control the minds of any being. Rimuru, correction, it can control the minds of any being except ultimate existence, beings who hold ultimate skills. I feel so smug right now. Around a third of the people in this room are looking at me with confused faces, most of them being the attendants, but still. Feeling the need to explain, so I can flaunt my knowledge, I continue speaking. Rimuru ultimate skills are skills above unique skills. They control parts of the laws of the world itself, depending on their specialization. Due to this, a simple mind-controlling device is pretty much useless against them. Well, unless you have a mental type ultimate skill. I say with a casual shrug of my shoulders. Guy Crimson doesn't look surprised at this info, neither does Ramiris, Milim, DeGruel, Dino, Luminous and Roy Valentine, and even Leon. That makes sense, they either all have ultimate skills of their own or they've lived long enough to have at least heard of it. Fry, Carrion, the winged guy wearing a lion mask, and other attendants in the room like Trainee and Jarvis all look either interested or shocked about this new info. Especially Clayman. He is laying on his stomach on the floor, looking back between me and Milim with wide eyes and a gaping mouth. Milim, of course, is still laughing. And it was at this moment, Clayman knew, he fucked up. Clayman knew that he immediately lost all leverage, he even provoked one of the strongest demon lords in existence, Milim. He was, in essence, courting death. Now, do you know that saying? About a cornered rat? How, when cornered, even a rat will fight back because they have nothing to lose. That is Clayman's situation right now. His face twists into an ugly visage, rage and anger clouding his eyes that used to hold a calculative gleam. Clayman Yuu. Tui. He pushes up against the carpeted floor, disregarding the aching pain in his mouth. His magicules fluctuate and begin to grow wild. Mikoto, oh no you don't. But Mikoto is having none of that. Sparks of harmless electricity dance across Clayman's body. Mikoto waves her hand towards the side as if she's pushing aside something bothersome. Mikoto, go sit. His eyes widen in surprise before suddenly, he is flung backwards at speeds even modern-day jets would be hard-pressed to reach. Bang! He slams into his designated seat, cracking the enchanted wood it is crafted from with nothing but sheer physical force. Electricity sparks across the chair as well, holding it in place, preventing it from flying away with Clayman from the impact. The electricity dies down as Mikoto releases her hold over his clothes and body. Rimuru, well, just calm down. You won't die for now. Rather, I'm curious what you had to say. I say while supporting my head with my arm, my elbow resting on the table in front of me. My golden eyes glow slightly as I stare at Clayman, my mouth spreading into a smirk. Rimuru, who knows, you might be able to talk your way out of this very deep hole you dug for yourself. Man, I must look so fucking badass. Ilya, no. Hush. Let me have this. Meanwhile, everyone else in the room is silent, still trying to process what the hell just happened and the casual power displayed by their new tea-color-haired demon lord Pier when she flung Clayman away. Never mind, Mikoto is cooler. Hey, author. Are you sure she isn't the protagonist? Lord of Darkness, Guy Crimson. Destroyer, Milim Nava. Fairy of the Labyrinth, Ramiris. Continent's Wrath, DeGruel. Bloody Lord, Roy Valentine with Queen of Nightmares, Luminous Valentine, disguised as a maid. Sleeping Ruler, Dino. Sky Queen, Fry with Lion King Carrion, disguised as the former's attendant. Marionette Master, Clayman. Platinum Saber, Leon? And currently without a title, Mikoto Masaka, the human who dared to call herself a demon lord. Rain, Guy's attendant, made the introductions out loud, excluding Luminous and Carrion. It also seems that Leon changed his name from Platinum Devil to Platinum Saber, fucking Chuyuni. These people are the demon lords attending the current Walpurgis. Although I'm not hiding anymore, I'm not a demon lord. Furthermore, in everyone else's eyes, I'm still Mikoto's attendant, not a separate party. Not that I mind, this is what I want. Mikoto, Shizu, and I are all in one group together. Milim is sitting in her seat, wearing a rather wicked smile, while staring at Clayman, who is constantly sweating and slightly trembling. The only reason he isn't breaking down is that he knows he still has a chance to get out of this alive. Sorry, let me rephrase. He thinks he still has a chance to get out of this alive. Though, regardless of what he does, he's not. But in his mind, as long as he can appeal to the other demon lords, they should side with him. But unless he can magically pull a plate of meat buns from somewhere, I don't think he will be convincing anyone. Fortunately for him, he is the one who called for the Walpurgis, so he is technically the chairman of the entire event. He's got the floor. As I think such things, I get an epiphany. I place my face in my palm. Rimuru, first he's Clayman, next he's Chairman, what next? Floorman? I mutter to myself. Crack. I lift my head to find that Clayman crushed one of the armrests on his chair as he's staring at me with a look of fury. I then remember that this room is filled with supernatural people. Hearing my muttering is something simple for all of them. Well, at least it seems they enjoyed my little slip of the tongue, Milim and Ramiris especially at how they burst out laughing all over again. Clayman's face turns into a deep shade of red, but he doesn't. He glances towards the tsundere sitting in her seat in front of me and gulps. Haha, he's scared. Anyway, Clayman stands up and begins to talk, starting the Walpurgis. Clayman first, thank you all for answering my invitation. I hereby declare this Walpurgis Council convened. I gotta say, I'm impressed. Within the span of 2 sentences, all traces of fear and anger disappeared from his face, his expression returning to its smug state. I am nearly certain that expression is his default state. Disregarding his ruffled hair, clothing and his nearly collapsing seat, he doesn't look any worse for wear. He goes on to talk more and more about his reason for convening the Walpurgis, but he sounded so obnoxious that I pretty much zoned out and had Ilya summarize the whole thing. Basically, he had this whole story set up. Carrion enticed Mikoto into declaring herself as a demon lord, saying he threatened her into doing so by having one of his subordinates unseal Charybdis and send it her way, saying he can do that many more times. In the end, fearing more attacks from the ruler of the skies, she relented. Carrion then made the Pharmus Kingdom attack Avalon, and once Mikoto defeated them all, she assumed the title of Demon Lord. After that, Carrion and Mikoto colluded with each other to kill Clayman and take his spot. However, Mjurin, one of Clayman's subordinates, sacrificed her life to warn him of this plot, which caused him to call a Walpurgis to bring this all to light. At least, that was the story he gave. He was pretty convincing too, he looked genuinely sad over his subordinate's death. Except, you know, she's not dead. I just cut her connection with him. Furthermore, I'm pretty sure he willingly sacrificed his only loyal subordinate without batting an eye in canon. Obviously, this whole story is a bunch of nonsense, but the other demon lords here don't know that. Not that it matters. But in the end, teaming up with a demon lord to take care of another demon lord doesn't sit well with any of these people. Clayman smirks to himself as he realizes it. Clayman, that concludes my case. What is this, a court session? Mikoto, and you took over an hour just to explain all of this? Mikoto lazily comments while slouching deeply into her chair. You can't blame her, some people are already nodding off at this point. Clayman, I needed to emphasize your evil deeds to the rest. Mikoto, How about coughing up some real evidence then, instead of repeating the same thing 7 times? I mean, are you trying to lull all of us to sleep and hypnotize us to convince them? Clayman, you. Humph. Like I've said before, my currently deceased subordinate gave all of this information to me. I have no reason to believe she is lying. Mikoto, at the same time, I, and by proxy everyone else in this room, don't have any reason to believe this information is the truth. Clayman opens his mouth to say something else, but I interrupt. Rimuru, plus, you know. Mjurin, your subordinate? Yeah, she's still alive. Now Clayman is left standing there with his mouth gaping open like a goldfish. Mikoto, oh, and you know that army you sent into Carrion's territory to collect souls and advance into a true demon lord? Carrion the lion-masked harpy flinched at Mikoto's words. Mikoto, yeah, they're all dead now. N, not all of them. Laughs in Fedge. Clayman, everyone. You can't listen to this trickster. She is lying. She is just a weak human who assumed the title of Demon Lord. Clayman starts to lose his composure again, glancing around the room and trying to garner supporters. All he sees, however, are their impassive eyes. Milim raises her hand. Milim, can I say something? I mean, Clayman, why are you even bothering to do this? Milim asks with genuine curiosity. Seeing the confusion mixed with Clayman's fear as he looks towards her, she elaborates. Milim, couldn't you just deal with all this yourself? You just said she was a weak human, so. Ramiris, yeah, this entire thing is boring. I don't see the need to call for a Walpurgis for something like this. Ramiris lazily states. Clayman B, but she colluded with Carrion to dispose of me and take my seat. Are you all just going to let this slide? At this point, Guy himself speaks up. Guy, of course not, doing something like that disgusts me. But Carrion was already taken care of, no? All 3 of the oldest demon lords have spoken. None of the others in the room has any intentions of standing up for him either. Clayman knows this. Fear finally takes full hold of his emotions, as his head snaps left and right, looking around the room for support. Beads of sweat flick off his forehead from his actions. Huh. Serves him right. That fucker was even sending sneaky mind attacks at our group, trying to control us. Sucks to be him. Both Makoto and I have ultimate skills and Shizu has her anti-magic mask. Not having any other choice, he looks towards his last hope in this room, the only one who hasn't looked at him with apathetic eyes and hasn't said reacted to anything throughout the whole Valpurgis. Clayman L. Leon Cromwell. You understand me, right? That's right, he asks for help from Leon himself. Leon. Clayman. L. Leon? Shizu. He's asleep. Clayman. Eh? Shizu, I said that he's asleep. He has been since before you entered. To be exact, Shizu knocked him unconscious, but details. Clayman. Why are we still here, just to suffer? Third person, POV. An hour ago, just when Clayman officially begins Valpurgis. In the puppet nation of Gistav, the other half of Ilya's plan begins. This part of the plan is where Rimuru's subordinates all gather together and storm Clayman's castle. Preferably while also razing it to the ground. Who am I kidding? Razing it to the ground is a certainty. I mean, even Cheyenne is going, it's a matter of course. Cheyenne TCH. Shina MMM? What's wrong, Cheyenne? Shina hears Cheyenne's click of her tongue and tilts her head while asking. Cheyenne, nothing. I just thought someone was thinking something rude about me. Cheyenne says as she narrows her eyes suspiciously while looking around her, hoping to catch the one who dared to slander her. Shina, is that so? But you need to pay attention. Hakuru, it's fine, Shina, the plan is rather simple and easy to execute. Ilya-sama made sure of that. Hakuru says while stroking his beard. And he is correct, the plan is relatively simple. So I will scout the castle along with his shadows. Once the entire place is mapped out, Cheyenne, Shuna, Hakuru, Benimaru, Gabel, Geld and Ranga will storm the estate along with another 10,000 soldiers from Avalon. Gabel, indeed. And then once we return, we shall receive plenty of praise from Rimuru-sama. Dragonet Guard Mob A as expected of Gabel-sama. Dragonet Guard Mob B, so cool. Dragonet Guard Mob C1, 2. Dragonet Guard Mob A B/C GA by RU. GA by RU. GA by RU. Dabble gets lost in his own dreams again and everyone ignores him. A/N, man, it's been a while since I last mentioned Gabel. Geld, I do not need praise from Rimuru-sama. Simply doing as he wishes is satisfaction enough for me. Ranga, I as well, Sir Geld. But it is almost certain our master will do so anyway, so it is fine to be a little expectant of it. Benimaru stays silent, standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking the castle, with crossed arms and serious eyes. Before long, a shadow flickers beside him, causing him to look towards it as a small smile tugs on his lips. Benimaru, Soai. Have you finished? Soai stands next to him, also looking towards the castle in the distance. Soai, indeed. There are a large number of skeletons and puppet golems, but aside from non-combatants, they are the only defense force Clayman has. Although their numbers reach upward of 100,000 each. Benimaru more than 200,000 total? Benimaru asks with a raise in his eyebrow, before he scoffs. Benimaru easy. A few minutes later, after double-checking everything, Benimaru orders all 10,000 troops. Benimaru, let's start the operation. An hour later. Surprisingly, a lot has happened within this hour. Under Benimaru's lead, everyone began the raid on the dungeon named Clayman's Crack House. They charged forwards and the first defenses were activated. It was a special field surrounding the castle that produced mist that caused those caught within to get lost. Shina, well, it's nothing to me though. Shina cheerfully said while her group continued to run blindly through the mist. Ranga, forgive me, Lady Shina, but why are you not doing anything about this then? Shina, well, this mist is leading us directly to the enemy, so there's no need to. Specifically, the mist is leading her group into an ambush, but that doesn't faze her. And she has a good reason for that too. The mist cleared and revealed thousands upon thousands of skeletons, all showing malice towards Shina and her relatively small group. Within the skeletons standing at the front, you can see three distinct figures. A white, a death knight, and an undead dragon. Adelman, I am Adelman, a white and one of Demon Lord Clayman's 5 fingers. Lowly intruders, submit yourselves, and I shall grant you a painless dash. Shina, nope. Shina shouts while throwing something towards him. It's small, white, and seems to be made out of soft fabric. It's a pair of panties. But these aren't any pair of panties, oh no. These aren't even Makoto's panties. Makoto's panties are a legendary artifact that can even summon a primordial demon, but these panties belong to a different person. Specifically, these are Roxy's panties, from Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation. The holy energy radiating off these panties are like the sun. Nearly instantaneously, over 90% of the skeletons instantly turned to ash. Shina, as expected of Rimuru-sama, to be able to create an item comparable to Excalibur in holy energy and entrust it to me. Shina and the rest of her ignore the rest of the skeletons and rush towards the castle as Roxy's panties disappear as they have done their job and are returning to Author's Pantsu Vault. A/N, woo. Come to Papa. Anyway, with Shina taking care of the skeletons, the rest was easy. Just take care of the puppet golems which, although are strong, are relatively simple to exploit, and boom. Clayman's castle is your for the taking. Although there are a bunch of servants here too, they don't have anywhere near the needed combat prowess to contest with Avalon's army. Not that they wanted to, however. I mean, Clayman was a dick, so they were quite happy with finally being freed from that prick. That dick prick. Did I mention that the majority of them were dark elves? Looks like Avalon is getting a culture boost. Not only that, but Adelman and a few thousand more skeletons survived, including the Death Knight and the Undead Dragon. Adelman, I was so moved by the pure holy powers contained within the object you threw, it sought to spare me and those close to me. Therefore, I wish to serve the being who made such a divine construct. Is what he said to Shina when they met half an hour later. And so Adelman was recruited. Although no one knew at the time, Adelman used to be a member of the Luminous Faith. And now, after joining Avalon, he will continue to advance through the rankings until eventually, he will become a pope of the Church of Meat Buns. In any case, with Clayman's castle now defenseless, they stole literally everything and left. I'm not joking, they even took the carpets. Anything that wasn't bolted down was stored in their individual spatial pouches and taken away. Plus, you know, Clayman was a demon lord for centuries, he also had a lot of riches stockpiled up. As they were leaving, Cheyenne, due to not doing much throughout the whole operation, grew annoyed before she turned around and proceeded to destroy the entire castle in under 3 minutes. By herself. Back in Valpurgis. Clayman. Why are we still here, just to suffer? My guy, I ask myself that question every day. Well, my life is good now, with me becoming an OP slime and shit, but it's more of a habit ingrained in me from my past life. Because every time I ask that question, Makoto's thighs come into mind and then I say, I remember why I'm still here and go about my day like normal. If I get lucky, Makoto's thighs in my mind will be wearing stockings, and I'll feel extra motivated. And if I'm really lucky, Makoto will be wearing stockings in real life. Though, I've never had a day where both happened at the same time. I wonder why. A/N, because the world will explode if that happens. Anyway, currently, Clayman is an absolute wreck. He is shivering, sweating, and looking around like Batman hyped up on drugs. Except, you know, less menacing. Remember what I said about a cornered rat? Yeah, that is Clayman right now. Seeing no other choice, Clayman gets desperate and makes what's called a pro-gamer move. Ilya. He's sacrificing his life force and damaging his soul to forcefully advance into a true demon lord. Rimuru, well that's just stupid. Why would you want to kill yourself when you have such beautiful things in the world? Ilya Oniai-chan, please stop thinking about my thighs. Rimuru, oh come on, I'm not only thinking about your thighs. Ilya, then stop thinking about the other girl's thighs too. TCH. Anyway, Clayman's magicules start rampaging and becoming wilder and wilder. Now, although he's weak compared to the rest of us, he's still a demon lord seed. He's someone whose mere presence acts as a deterrent against entire countries. So he's got a lot of magicules reaching above a rank. And all of those magicules are currently running wild. It continues to inflate and lash out at its surroundings, quickly reaching S rank. Clayman, the idiot, wasn't unharmed. His skin begins to crack from the rampaging energy inside him. His eyes and nose begin to bleed and his screams sound like he's gargling water. Yeah, he's screaming. What? It's not painless. Clayman ahhnn. I am going to ignore that. Clayman is not a masochist. He's not. A/N, I'm scarred for life. His magicules stop growing and begin to calm down, but only a little bit. Only enough to not damage his body any further. However, his magicules are still running wild beyond that. He takes out a mask from behind him that I swear came from fucking nowhere and puts it on his face. It's a jester mask. Clayman, I'm not getting out of this alive? Fine, I'll take you down with me. I was hoping he would make a Thanos reference, but I guess we can't have everything. Clayman's aura pushes everything away from him. Even the table is slowly moving backwards as its legs slide against the carpeted floor. Mikoto just sits there in her seat as the wind blows past her, looking on with impassive, unimpressed eyes. Mikoto. Okay. Mikoto looks around the room. The majority of them are impassive about Clayman's transformation. Although there are traces of intrigue and curiosity when looking at him. I mean, it's not every day someone uses drastic measures like this. You're going to die anyway, with an exhausted life force and a broken soul. There's no hope. Well, unless I decide to pop in and say hola. But otherwise, nope. Although Fry and Carrion are looking a little worried then and again, they aren't true demon lords and are merely demon lord seeds. Mikoto points over towards Clayman, who is doing God knows what. He is just standing there, staring at the corner of the room with bloodshot eyes, and opens her mouth. Mikoto, hey, if I beat him, will I be considered a proper demon lord? Milene looks Clayman up and down before shrugging. Milene, well, he's a bit weak, but I'm all for it, Nanoda. Ramiris nods her head from behind Jarvis. Wait, when did she get there? Ramiris, yup, I agree. Although I could defeat him with just my pinky finger. By myself. In under a second. Yup. Then stop hiding behind Jarvis. Mikoto, right, be right back. Mikoto stands up from her chair and slowly walks over to Clayman while cracking her knuckles as electricity dances off her body. Clayman, who? You're approaching me? Instead of running away, you're coming right to me? Mikoto, I can't beat the shit out of you without getting closer. Clayman, oh ho. Then come as close as you like. Meanwhile, trainee faints from euphoria. A/N, a bit of trivia, both Clayman and Dio have the same Japanese voice actor. I feel Clayman smirk under his mask. He suddenly points towards both Shizu and I, who are standing behind Mikoto's currently empty chair. Clayman, go. Ninehead. Viola. Ninehead? Oh yeah, I remember. It's what he calls that fox. The little blonde fox he brought in with him growled a bit before shaking its head and leaping towards us. Wait, where did it come from? Where was it hiding all this time? Meanwhile, a black-robed figure appeared from some sort of pocket space Clayman had and followed very quickly behind the former. Shizu *hiss*. Shizu hisses before jumping towards the fox. Midair, she turns back into her twin-tailed hellcat form with a burst of flame before meeting the fox head-on. Shizu Naya. Ninehead, con. If anything, it looks more like a cat fight than anything. I can't really see much because there's that anime dust cloud effect that happens whenever some people get into a brawl. But I hear a lot of noise like yelps, hisses, scratches, crashing sounds, and things like that. It's almost comedic. In any case, the black-cloaked figure rushes towards me. Clayman called it Viola. A bunch of information enters my mind, courtesy of Ilya. Viola is an advanced magical combat puppet. In fact, it looks stronger than Clayman. Well, stronger than Clayman before his transformation. Its main way of battling is to throw a bunch of weapons at the enemy. And she has a lot. There's some kind of storage device strapped on her, Azathoth, making it easy to sense its expanded space within its body. Basically, she's a bootleg gate of Babylon. Getting curious, I exert my control over its little pocket space, and I cut it off. Immediately after, this Viola puppet stops running forward, and she just stands there. She doesn't do anything. Rimuru. Viola. Rimuru. Well, this is awkward. And then Viola exploded. Boom. Wait, what? Self-destruct. Did it not know what to do once all its weapons were taken that it just decided to commit Sudoku? What is wrong with this world? Name, Rimuru. Race, origin slime. Protection, Crest of Space. Title, Highest Tier Spirit, Leader of the Monsters, Oniichan, King of Avalon, Master of Headpats, Procrastinator King, The Nutcracker, Socially Awkward Cringe Slightly Chiuni Slime, True Dragon Slayer, Sensei, World's Strongest, Overpowered to a Stupid Degree, Mikoto's Equal. Codex, Iliasville. Ultimate Skills, Yahweh, God of Creation, Odin, God of Runes, Azathoth, God of Void, Alternative. Equipment, Yamato, Genesis.
If you want to support me, check out my Patreon at https://www.patreon.com/Kaioshin. I tend to polls that decide important plot stuff in my Patreon. Many thanks to my awesome patrons. Nicholas Berenger, Ben Phillips, Yamatancho, Taco TSK, Jose Torres. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.